I've found that when I've gone back to my manuscripts and I'm trying to address the critique from the editor about it, it's not really clear why the character is doing this. It's less saying, he did this because he was very angry with his roommate or something like that, and adding more actions in. Like it usually happens in long passages of dialogue, and going back and adding
Mhm.
in some physicality to it that's shedding more light beyond just the words onto maybe what he's thinking or how he's feeling is helpful. Sometimes adding the, sprinkling in the adverbs as appropriate. And I'm just realizing that another way this can help is that I'm proof listening to the audiobook of my 5th Lizzie Ballard novel, and every once in a while, the narrator takes it in a drug she, performs it in a way that is not what I would have anticipated, and I'm looking at the words on the page, I'm like, "Yeah, I can totally see why she thought that," but if I had just said, he closed his fist over the lapel of his jacket before he spoke or something like that, like, seeding in a little bit more hint about, "No, this person is really supposed to be more angry than irritated in the scene," or, "This person should sound more contemplative than passive," or whatever it might be. Then it's on the page, but it's not on the page in a, like, slap you in the face kinda way.
Well, what you're describing is using show to indicate the you're giving us so you don't wanna one way to avoid spoon feeding, you don't want to spell it out like you said. You wanna give us the clues that let us draw the conclusion. So show is one good way of doing that. If we're seeing the behavior, then we start to put the pieces together of, "Oh, they're uncomfortable. Oh, that must hit on what we found out, 3 chapters ago about how their father used to belittle them as a child every time they tried to reach for something outside of their comfort zone," or whatever it is. And we start to make those connections for ourselves based on what you are showing us. But also sometimes it can be tell, just not tell in the sense of what you said. Like, she was angry because that is spoon feeding. But if you tell us a little bit, like you can almost think of it as like an oblique glancing off of the thing instead of putting your finger right on the thing. Think
Yeah.
about times when you yourself okay, so let's use a specific example, and this is from the blog post that you wanted to talk about this from. When people ask me why I moved to Austin 17 years ago when I was living in Florida at the time, and a lot of people ask why, and I give them kind of my anecdotal standard answer, which is, I had visited Austin and I just had a vibe about it. I felt like it was a great place to be, and that is true to a point, but it's the magical knowing. So in the blog post, I talk about several things. First of all, what led to my even looking for someplace else to live and wanting to live in Austin? Well, that's what was going on in my life at the time. I was living in Florida in a mostly retirement town. I was 30, I don't know, 8 years old or so, and strongly thinking about, I had moved sort of down the road of becoming a foster to adopt parent, single foster to adopt parent, and suddenly started thinking about this Austin thing. Why though? Because what I really was looking for in the foster to adopt program was having a family. I was single. I wanted to have a sense of love and belonging and security and not be on my own anymore. So that was the way I thought I had to do it because I was living in this retirement town where dating was pretty much a dead zone. So Austin, I had heard great things about, but again, so now we have a little more clarity of motivation. But I also didn't just go, that looks like a great place. I just know it. I feel it. I did a lot of research. I came to the town and I spent some time, like a week and a half, maybe total, in 2 different visits. I researched the demographics. I researched the educational level, the political slant, the population, the cost of living, what parts of town would I like. I I dug into, I mean, I got really granular with it. I looked at census data and ratio of men to women and age. I mean, I was not, this was the farthest thing from just knowing.
Yeah.
But just knowing makes a fun anecdote, and to a degree, it did feel like that, like, I got here and there was a day where I just went, "This feels right," but it felt right for all those reasons that I may not have been articulating at the time to myself or anyone else, but that was what was going into that magical moment of just knowing that you would have to show a little bit more in your if I were a character, you would lay that groundwork so that even if the character isn't putting those pieces together, the reader can.
Yeah. And I can imagine a story where a character really does decide to move from Florida to Austin because just because they have a vibe,
Oh, I see that
a
a
certain
lot.
kind of
They're
character.
looking for something and they don't know
Yeah,
what they're looking for, and we need more than
yeah. And they may have subconsciously have all that going on, but they themselves are magically
right.
ignorant of what's driving them, and it could be actually the focus of the story to
Mhm.
delve into why they made this decision and what it is about their past and how does that affect it, and that you could very entertainingly gradually reveal to the reader in that case where the author really understands more what their character is doing than the character does.
I mean, that is the basis. That is the basis of a lot of stories, right? Especially in certain genres like women's fiction. But
Mhm,
it's one of the common tropes is a character either leaving home, going out and forging, it's the hero's journey, or coming back to wherever. And back may be actual back, like going home again, or back may just be somewhere new. Why? They're fleeing something they're trying to get away from, or they're going towards something they want, or both. And again, they may not know fully what that is. And as you said, the story may be about uncovering that, but the reader has got to see some clues. You can't ask us to take on faith that they just wanna start over, and this is a place where they think they'll find a better life because those are vague terms, and we don't know what they mean, and so we have nothing to hook into, we don't know what the stakes are, we have nothing to root for them to achieve. We have to have the specifics.